Hi folks, Greg Lloyd here, professional piano player and creator of classical to jazz piano, with another quick lesson for you. Learning jazz piano can be confusing and difficult. The jigsaw of jazz education can be hard to put together. So I thought I would help you all along with this quick tip today. Have you been looking for a way to play jazz piano with a band or a bass player, but you do not know what to play or where to start? Or are you wondering what scales to play on an F blues? Maybe you're a bit fed up with playing only the blues scale on a 12-bar blues, and you've been doing this for a while and you don't know what to do next. Well, if this is you, then stick around, as I'm going to show you how to play an F blues with a band or a bass player right now, showing you all the things you need to play in 3 steps. Alright, so before we kick off, make sure that you download the guide below, print it off, and you're good to go. Plus, do subscribe, hit that bell and the like button. Also, do check out all the other videos on the YouTube channel and the website. Alright, let's get going. Right. For me, the 12-bar blues is an awesome way to get going with jazz piano. Whether you are at the beginning of your jazz journey or some way along your jazz journey like me, there's always something cool to learn. That's what's so cool about it. The 12-bar blues has always something new to give. So if you are at the beginning of your jazz journey, a great place to start is with the 12-bar blues in any key, then in all 12 keys when you can. I do want to stress that there are many variations of the 12-bar blues. This is only one version in this video today. It's the one I give my students at the start after they can improvise on the 3-chord 12-bar blues first. If you are looking for a tune to fit these 12-bar blues that I have here in this video, then check out Thelonious Monk's Straight No Chaser. This lesson is going to drill down on how to play an F blues with a band or a bass player, so it's going to have no root notes. If you are looking to learn how to play an F blues with the root notes as a solo piano piece, then check out the top 4 steps you need to know to play an F blues solo piano. It's the last video I did. All right, so let's get going on this one. Okay, so here's step 1. All right. Okay, so if you are new to jazz or your reading isn't very good, I suggest you do the following exercises out of time to start. And then when you can, do it with the counting aloud. And then when you're ready after that, do it with a metronome. I like to start my students off at 50 or 60 beats per minute. It's a great place to start. So that's what I'm going to do right now with these next 2 steps. I'm going to be doing it at 60 beats per minute. Okay, so step 1 of the top 3 steps you need to know to play an F blues with a band or a bass player is to leave out the root note and to play the 3rd and the 7th in the left hand. All right, and in this case, they're mainly dominant 7 chords, except for a few minor chords here and there. All right, there isn't any major 7 chords in this 12-bar blues, but in other 12-bar blues there are. But don't be worried about those guys; they're for the future. But for this 12-bar blues, it's mainly using, you can see there it's got a bar in bar 1 is F7, bar 2 B flat 7, bar 3 F7. And then you have an option for bar 4, you could keep playing the F7 again. Or if you want to get a bit more spicy, you can add in the C minor 7 and the F7 for 2 beats each. And that's what I'm going to do, because it leads it in to the 5th bar, where there's a B flat 7 there. It's a nice little movement, moving into the B flat 7, and then you have an option again in bar 6 to play the B flat 7, or if you want to play something a bit more spicy, add in the B diminished 7. All right, you can see it's written there, and that's what I'm going to use for today. And then bar 7, you're back to F7, and then you have an option again in bar 8 to play an A minus 7 and a D. 7 for 2 beats each. Or if you want to make it a bit more spicy, these are the ones I like to use, and these are the ones written in this lesson for today, is the A minor 7 with a flattened fifth and a D dominant 7. All right. And then in bar 9, you have the option again in the future if you want to play the G dominant 7, but for today we're going to play just G minor 7, and then bar 10 C7, and then bar 11 we got 2 beats each for each of these chords, and F7 to D dominant 7 to G minor 7, which again in the future you could also play a G dominant 7 there if you wanted to, and a C7 there, okay, as well. As you can see, that there is this is only like one version of the blues that I like to give my students. There's many variations of this 12-bar blues. This is only one, and it's the one that I like to give to my students, and that's what we're going to do here for today. When you sort of start out playing this stuff at the beginning, when you're just playing it and you're not used to hearing it without the root notes, it can sound a little bit empty, you know, which is completely normal because you're not used to hearing it kind of without the root notes. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I can hear the root notes, you know. So I can hear them, and eventually you will as well. But to counteract this, a real cool thing to do anyways is to practice with a bass player or a band. But if you don't have that option, and let's face it, most of us do not have that option of always rehearsing with a bass player and a band, there's an app, all right? As there is always an app nowadays, and it's called the iReal Pro app, and it's about 18 or 16 euro or something. I'm not working with the app developers in any way, but it's just that it's kind of an app that I think all jazz musicians have nowadays. One, for practicing, and two, for all the chord charts, because you can pick up like over a couple of thousands of chord charts, and it's always handy to have when you're at a gig and someone comes up and calls you know, all the things you are or something, and there's a vocalist there, and it's like, oh, he or she wants to do it in a weird key, and you can just sort of transpose it on the spot and sort of put it up and off you go, kind of thing. It's a really, really, really handy thing, but it's also really handy for you to practice with, and that's what I'm going to have here. So as you can have a quick listen, I'm just going to turn it on here. You can hear it here, okay? So that's the iReal Pro app, okay? So as you notice, it's only the bass player and the drums. And so what I've done in the mixer part of the app is I turned off the piano, because you're the piano player, all right? Which is kind of cool, all right? So this is a cool way to practice it right now. I'm going to run through this number 1 step here, and it's at 60 beats per minute because it's the tempo that I like to give my students. So let's have a quick listen, see what it sounds like. Great, all right, so there it is, all right, so it sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Sounds really, really cool. So you may be asking, why don't you play the root notes? Because the bass player's playing them. Can play the odd root note here and there in the future when you get a bit better at it, but you don't want to get in the way of the bass player. So a real cool place to start is what we're doing here in step 1. So when you get that step under your belt, if you can with the metronome, that'd be awesome. But remember, if you're struggling with the metronome, just start out of time and then build up to what I just did there. Okay. Before we move on to step 2, you're probably wondering, you know, how people begin to improvise. All right. So basically, there are rules. All right. So the way I like to explain to my students is that there are scales to each of the chords. All right. So literally each chord has a scale, and it's a thing called the modes. And what I'm going to kind of run through now in the next step is a couple of little tricks that are really cool to help you get all this stuff into your brain. So maybe one day that you might be able to start creating your own improvisations and soloing. So what usually happens is we play a melody, with the jazz. We play a melody and then we improvise off the chords from that melody in many different ways, and then we come back to the melody and then we finish. All right. So like I mentioned earlier, if you are looking for a melody, have a look at Thelonious Monk's Straight No Chaser. All right, that fits really well with this one. All right, let's move on to step 2. So now we're moving on to step 2. So it's exactly like step 1, and it's got the 3rd and 7ths in the left hand, but we're going to use the F blues scale now with the right hand. And this is a great scale, and if you don't know what this scale is, it's made up of, if you go to the key of F, all right, this is our F major scale, traditional F major scale, or the F Ionian scale. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the F blues scale literally it's made up of 1, flat 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, flat 7, and an 8. All right. So the fingering that I like to use for the F blues scale is 1 for the F, A flat 2, 3 for the B flat, then go under to the B natural to 1, and then 2 for the C, and then 3 for the E flat. All right, and then under again if you want to go up the octave. And there it is there. Okay. Okay, so there's the F blues scale with the fingering, but we're not going to do it 2 octaves for today. We're just going to do it 1 octave. What's really cool about this is if you are looking for a way to start improvising, then the blues scale is the perfect place to start. All right, because it's really, really, really forgiving. All right, this blues scale, there are no wrong notes really, and it builds up your confidence. And if you just run up and down this exercise here to start with, eventually, after a while, if you do it enough, you're going to start to. Eventually, you might pick a couple of notes out, or you might, as I say here in Ireland, they use a term messing, which is kind of a cool way to describe improvising, because you just sort of start to you just randomly use the notes, just mess around, and then one day you might find yourself improvising when you're not expecting it. But you got to play it a lot. If you're really struggling, you got to play this scale a lot. All right, to get it into your head. And a cool thing would be to also hum along. Real cool way, because I'm always humming what I'm playing. All right, even with the stuff in standards or whatever, it's a real. And this is where it all came from. It all came from the blues. All right, from the blues scale, which is kind of cool, eh? And I do want to point out that there are more blues scales, but for now we're just going to use the F blues scale here on this lesson today. Okay, there are more scales and there's a different way to explain this as well, but this is the way that I give it to my students, and it works really, really well. Okay, so let's have a listen. So there it is there. Yeah, okay, so how did that sound? It sounded pretty cool to me. But there might be a couple of places in there, like on the C minus 7, where it gets a little bit of tension in there, but hey, it sounds cool to me. Basically, what I'm trying to express in this step is that you can use the blues scale all the way through, and you can randomly, start to pick ideas out. Let me give you a few little examples. So here we go. I'm just going to use the blues scale only now. 3 and 4 and... Okay, so here we go. That was all the blues scale. All right, I'm just making it up here. This sounds pretty cool to me, and it's a great way to try and get your head around what the beginnings of improvisation. There is more, but it's just a great way to get started. All right, let's move on to step 3. Okay, so for step 3, of 3 steps that you need to know to play an F blues with a bass or a band, okay, is again, I'm just going to leave this exactly the left hand how it is, all right, and we're going to play the 3rd and 7th in the left hand, but now there are more scales literally that exist within this blues, and I'm going to bring in the modes a little bit more, and you can still use the F blues scale all the way, as well as all of these scales as well. Okay, so let's have a listen, all right? I'm not going to use the iReal player or the metronome with this one because it's a little bit busy to explain with all the 16th notes that are there. So I'm just going to explain what the scales are a little bit. And what's going on in bar 1 is you've got your F7 in the left hand, and then you've got your mixolydian. All right, so what is the mixolydian? It's the major scale, but with a flattened 7th. We're lowering that 7th. So it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and an 8. So the fingering that I'm using there is it's just like the major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, under, 1, 2, 3, and then under again if you want to go up the octave. All right? So now you have the option of using that scale or the F blues scale. You know, yeah. All right. Moving on to bar 2, you've got the 3rd and 7th in the left hand, and then you have your B flat mixolydian. All right. We've just moved that up a perfect 4th to B flat. So it's our normal B flat major scale. We're going to lower that 7th to an A flat. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7th, and an 8. And you can use your F blues scale again on top. All right, as well. All right, so cool. All right, so there's some cool options there. And then bar 3, we're back at the F mixolydian. Now, if you're going to continue in bar 4, you can just keep using your F mixolydian there. Or if you want to get it a bit more spicier, like we talked about earlier, you can bring in C Dorian. All right, which is here's your major scale of C natural, C or C Ionian, and we're going to flatten the 3rd and flatten the 7th. All right, so it's made up of 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and an 8. Okay, and the fingering's just like the major scale for me. But even though I'm pointing out the fingering, when I'm improvising, I'm not really worrying about the fingering. I'm just only when I sort of do runs up the piano is when I really use the fingering. When I'm improvising, I'm just doing whatever works, and I'm just trying to make it as even as I can. All right, so there's our C minor 7, and with our C Dorian. And for now, I'll just put in the F mixolydian there. All right, now there's heaps of options on the F7s, but this is for the future, all right? But you can hear that there. And then in bar 5, we're back at the B flat mixolydian again. And then you have the option again in bar 6 to play the B flat again if you like, and leave it there, and that's all cool. Or if you want to play the diminished 7th, which is really cool, you could play the diminished triad, all right? And you can do it in any inversion there. You can see what I'm doing there. I realize I've written the chord in the left hand and I have a note clashing there. I apologize. So you can do it up the octave. If you want to do it there, that's cool. Any of those notes work really well. I mean, I often just come back to the diminished triads instead of worrying about the scale. All right, it's a real cool way to get in there. You can see. All right, and then coming back to the F Mixolydian in 7, and then bar 8. Like I mentioned before, you can play the A minor 7 on a D7, but for today, I'm going to play the A minor 7 with a flattened fifth to a D7. So you have a couple of options here. The A minor 7 with a flattened fifth, you could play your Locrian, if your A Locrian, if you wanted to, and then you come to a D Mixolydian. And I mean, that works pretty well. But if you want to spice it up, there's a thing called the minor 2-5-1, and I'm going to talk about that in the future lessons on the website. But for today, you're just going to play, you can just play a G harmonic minor scale over those two chords. Works really well. You can hear that. Works really, really well. You can hear that there, all right? Which is kind of cool. So I'll just play it again. And then coming back down. Obviously, I have it written here down the octave as well. I apologize about that again. Sorry about that. I'm just going to play the right hand up the octave, okay? And great. All right. It's a lovely, lovely way to get through it. And in future lessons, I'll explain what's happening there. Now, coming on to bar 9, we're going to use G Dorian, okay? So G Dorian, we got our third and seventh, so it's a G minus 7 there in the left hand, and G major scale, and we're going to lower the third and lower the seventh, and there's our G Dorian, and again the fingering's exactly like the major scale. All right. Sorry. Now, if you wanted to play the Mixolydian there, you could play G7 and play that there as well, all right? And there's a few other scales you can play there as well, but I don't want to put too much in for this lesson for today. Now, for bar 10, we're going to third and seventh to left hand, so E and B flat for the C7. And again, if you're happy with the Mixolydian, awesome. Remembering all of these, by the way, you can still be using all of your F blues scale through all of these chords, remember? Because we did it in the last step. A lot of people forget, because we're now doing all this, we still can't use the blues scale. Yes, you can, all right, of F, and it works really, really well, all right? So we're on the E, C7 here. So you got your Mixolydian of C, which is flattened 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flattened 7 to 8. And then what I've added in here as well is a thing called the C Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13, just to give it a bit more. And there is a reason for this. It's like the Mixolydian scale. So 1, 2, which is a 9, and you flatten it, all right? And then you got your 3, your 4, your 5, your flat 13 or flat 6, and then flat 7, and then an 8, all right? It's just another option. There are more options, but again, I don't want to get too much into stuff, all right? So that's for the future. But I just thought for the bit more advanced student might like that as well, all right? Oh yeah, there's another thing I wanted to talk about with that C7 Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13. If you were to play the F harmonic minor scale and start on C, you'll get your C Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13, all right? Bit confusing because it's the 5th mode of the harmonic minor scale. Don't worry if that's gone straight over your head. We'll talk about it in the future, okay? So moving on to bar 11, we get our F7 again, so our F Mixolydian, and then coming to here, D7, we've got our D Mixolydian, flat 9, flat 13. And this is literally just what we did there in the last bar, but just on the key of D, all right? So here's our normal D Mixolydian, which will work, all right? If you wanted to use that, you could, but I just thought I'd give a bit more spice in there. So 1, 2, and then flatten the second, and then to the 3, 4, 5, and then flat as a normal 6, then flatten the 6, flatten 7, and then 8. All right, and there's a. If you're looking at it as the other way, you could look at it as play the G harmonic minor scale and start on D, and you get your D Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13. Why? Because it's the fifth mode of the harmonic minor scale. Whoosh, over your head, that's okay. Don't worry. We'll come back to it, all right? And then for the G minor 7, you've got your G minor 7 as before, and then your Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13. Okay? So these are the scales that I like to give my students when they're getting a bit fed up of just playing the blues scale. There are many more options, there are many variations. This is just what I give my students, so I thought I'd do a video to help you guys out there. Okay? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a chorus of me using all these scales. All right, so let's have a quick listen and see what it sounds like. So it's made up a little chorus there using all those scales. Sounds pretty cool to me, all right? There are more options, there are more things going on there, so I hope that this helps and it gets you started. This video is only showing you the scales to play. It's not showing you how to play. In future lessons, I'm going to show you how to use them while improvising. And I'll be doing these really, really soon. So make sure if you're not already subscribed to the list or to the YouTube channel, then please do so you don't miss out. Plus, if you're at home and you do not have access to a band or a bass player like most of us, then use the app, all right, the iReal player. I forgot to mention that it's available on Mac and Android, all right. This is an awesome app and is an awesome learning tool. Okay. So if you are enjoying the content on this channel, then please do subscribe, click the bell to be notified when the new videos arrive. This will help me help you, because as this channel gets bigger, I'll be able to spend more time on it, giving you guys more and more awesome content. Do check out the Facebook and Instagram links below, and of course the website, classicaltojazzpiano.com. Plus, as this is a new channel and I really want to help you guys cut through the confusion of learning jazz piano and transform your piano playing. So, do you have a question for me on the piano or on jazz piano? You know, what are you stuck on? Let me know below in the comment area, or if you email me at greg@classicaltojazzpiano.com, I'll get back to you when I can. It's always awesome to hear from you. I'm getting loads of emails, so please keep them all coming along. And I hope this video today has helped you all with your jazz piano journey. All right, so take it easy, and I'll see you soon.